If you had to make a list in your life of the things that you must do, the places you must visit, you would be similar to my friend Chris Must's list. This guy has balls of steel and does his videos on an international level. He might go to the slums of Haiti. He's been in Afghanistan and interviewed Taliban members. This guy is fearless. This is my friend Chris Must's list, a Canadian YouTuber who travels the world in pursuit of adventure and understanding people. We have a lovely conversation, and I'm excited for you to join us on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Must's list. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the special honor and privilege of talking to a certified Canadian bad boy. When I tell you this guy has been to the places that your grandma tells you not to go, he's been to them all. He's been to Afghanistan. You just got back from South Sudan. You were chasing down cows that had gotten stolen from a village. You are a wild animal, and I love it. We have a lot to get into, a lot of stories. My first question for you, Chris, by the way, this is Chris Must List. That's his YouTube channel. My first question is, I get homesick very easily, and I only leave home for a week, 5-6 days. You leave home for 30 days, 50 days, and you have a wife and 3 kids, right?
Yes.
What is that like on your heart, and what is that like on your family?
I can only speak on behalf of myself. It's emotional, no doubt. I find the leaving part most difficult, saying goodbye, getting dropped off at the airport. No doubt I'm emotional. Even talking about it right now, I get a little emotional, but it's very tough. But once I'm out on the road and I'm filming and I'm editing and I'm busy basically every day, it sort of leaves to the back of my mind. It's like I'm a man on a mission. I think through the technology today, like the ability to do FaceTime, no matter where I am in the world, makes it easier.
It is easier for us, I think, because we're on a mission busy than it is for probably the people we leave behind.
Yeah, but I also think it is dependent on the person that you leave behind. My wife and I have been married almost 20 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. It's almost, forgive me for a lack of a better term, it's like sort of what she signed up for.
Yeah.
When I met her, she knew this is travel. My travel past is my resume is much longer than my 2 years on YouTube. I've been doing this my whole life. So she's told me multiple times that she doesn't mind.
There's something I learned in the Jewish community. We were out in New York during Purim, a big holiday of theirs, and they have it where when a woman is on her period or she's spiritually unclean for like 2 weeks out of the month, where they can't hug, they don't sleep together, but they said that keeps the marriage fresh because they're constantly missing and wanting the other person.
Right.
I think there's an element of that in our job where every time you get home from the airport, you want to drive home as fast as you can. You can't wait to open up the door. Yes. The dog comes to the stairs. You get to cuddle your wife. It makes those reunions even more precious.
I think so. Once again, if you're in a happy relationship, right? Yes. Yeah. I'm in a very happy relationship. My type of relationship with my wife is like we argue once every 3 years.
Yeah.
Every minute we're together, we're doing something. I think because of the time together is more limited right now, it's like making every moment count. So we're doing something every day.
So I think we're in a similar position, very stable, happy, loving relationship, and very few arguments. I guess I don't know if it's TV or it's marketed as like husband and wife are supposed to spend most of their days bickering. What do you think that is? Is that real life? Is that just Hollywood? Or
I think it's real life. I just think that a lot of people settle down for whatever reason they might have with somebody that they're not 100% compatible with. I think I lucked out, no doubt, finding my wife. There was some luck involved. But I think also holding out until you find the right person. Because I was in long relationships before my wife, but I never thought once to marry them. And that day I met my wife, it was like literally like I knew this woman was more than just beauty. She had everything I wanted. So I think it really depends on finding the right person, the right partner.
Have you ever taken your wife on a wild trip?
No, not too wild. Our children are getting older now. Eldest son is 18 as of a couple days ago, then 14-year-old, and then 9-year-old. So I think as soon as the children, we won't say are out of the house, they can look after themselves. No doubt I'll start introducing her to places like Afghanistan, and most definitely. When I'm doing these certain things, I don't mean like going into the hoods. She has no interest in that. But there are definitely places I'm somewhere alone, and I'm like, man, I wish my wife was here one day. I'm going to bring her to this spot. So,
like if they could just teleport in for a hug and for a hangout, it'd be amazing. Okay, let's start with Afghanistan. And that's partly how we grew our relationship.
Yes.
I was leaning heavily on you for encouragement and advice and contacts and all sort of things to feel comfortable going there because it felt like a suicide mission. It felt like everyone that I told that wasn't in the travel space, everyone that I told was like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. You're going to do that with your pregnant wife? You're going to go there and die? You're going to get killed by the Taliban? There's terrorists there, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Did you face that similar resistance before you went?
No. My wife, again, it's hard for me to speak on her behalf, but people always ask her in front of me, what are your thoughts about Chris going to these crazy places? And she's like, I trust him. I think, crazy as it sounds, as you sort of touched upon, I think it could bring the relationship even closer. There's a respect. Look, I'm talking about manly men. Right now in the world that we live, I live in Canada, you're in the USA, we're still part of North America. There are not as many manly men as there once was.
A lot of bitch maids walking around.
Yeah. We won't name any names, but there's something with our relationship where she's proud of me. She's like, he can go to ABCD where people are scared. My husband goes, he does it with a smile and he comes home safe, right? And
That's
I've done
a cool way to look at it.
So many times I've done it that I don't think it even crosses her mind.
I think that's the other thing is there's so much that's up to your perception and your own personal attitude. Like I have a friend and a neighbor. Every time I talk to him, and he's on all measurable metrics, this guy has a great life. He has a business that's booming. He's doing well. But it's always the negative. It's always complaining. It's always what's going wrong.
Yeah.
And then there's people that look at the way that it's going to work out, be okay. And so it sounds like part of what is your success is you have a very compatible partner that you guys blend really well. The puzzle pieces of life are fitting together.
100%. And more so every day. Because, after 20 years of marriage, what I could say is when you're with the right partner, things get easier.
Yeah.
It didn't always happen like this. Towards the beginning of our relationship, there was a lot of arguing. Me being alpha male and stubborn and not listening to my wife. Now it's changed. I'm very, very obedient. And my wife has passions that I want her to pursue. And she's the same way now with YouTube. I'm a traveler first. YouTube is new for me. Travel is not. So she's happy that I found something that I'm obsessed with. That's not gambling or drugs or addiction in any. I'm not causing harm to anyone, including my family. So I think she's behind me. I'm telling you, there's never been a time where she's like, no, don't go. Never.
She's a strong person.
Yeah, never.
Chris, I'm going to say an outlandish statement. I want you to tell me if this is true or false.
Yes.
From the many people I've talked to that have been to Afghanistan, and I just took you around Milwaukee the last few hours.
Yes.
Afghanistan is safer than the north side of Milwaukee.
Yeah, for sure.
Afghanistan is safer than most major U.S. cities right now.
For us as outsiders, yes.
And for us as men.
As men, yes. So the one thing I don't want to do is shine any shining light on the current circumstances and situations in Afghanistan. Because if you're a resident of Afghanistan, you're going through hell right now.
And especially if you're not Pashtun, if you're not the major ethnic controlling faction.
You're not happy. You have many rules that are holding you back from happiness. So it's difficult for me to speak on behalf of Afghanis. They can speak on behalf of themselves. When I go somewhere, I can only judge a country based on the way I was treated.
Yeah.
I was treated properly by the residents, and you would think that there would be some built-up anger towards white males from the West, with all the war and damage caused.
We've bombed a significant amount of people
in
Afghanistan.
Right, and destroyed their lives and their property and their businesses.
We contributed to many orphans.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would think that walking through the streets, when asked, are you from the USA, there would be a lot of anger. I said, I'm Canadian. But often when I was there, I would ask them, how would you feel if I was from the USA? And they treat you lovingly. Listen, if you were in the army that dropped the bombs, you would probably get treated differently. Mm-hmm. But they don't blame you for being American or where you were born. They're amongst the most loving people I've ever met.
I heard some people describe both Pakistan and next door neighbor Afghanistan as some of the most hospitable countries on earth.
The best. Pakistan, number one, by far. And I thought it was just me being a white man there. But when I was there, I was traveling with a YouTuber that was black, and he was treated even higher on a pedestal.
Black Man the Traveler?
Yes, yeah. So we were together, and I was seeing him the same. Like when a father or mother walks through the street with an infant child, they're taking their child out of the stroller and asking you to hold the child. Like, can you touch my child? And it wasn't a white thing. It wasn't a black thing. What they respect about us as world travelers is we're bypassing all of the alerts from the media. Do not go to Pakistan, terrorism, this, bombing, this. We've ignored that, and we're taking the risk in the media's eyes. We're enjoying it, so they're so happy for us to be there, right? So food is free. When you walk through Pakistan, they would be very insulted for you to pay for food off the street.
Is it
and
hard
drinks
to
and-
receive free food knowing that some of those people are struggling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but I always try to give money. That's just this is the way I am.
But also you want to give a man opportunity to be hospitable.
Right.
You don't want to rob that from him.
Right. And if they're going to offer me a juice or a meal, I know that's not going to take away from their bottom line, right? So I don't want to insult them. If they offer me free enough times, I'll say yes, most definitely. I would love to do this. So yeah, Pakistan, incredible people. And I didn't know, like when I go to these places, I don't Google, are people in Pakistan friendly, right? I don't know what I'm even going to encounter. So when I got there and I saw these people are just incredibly passionate about their country.
You landed in Pakistan,
Yes.
went through Pakistan, and then crossed through into Afghanistan.
After a couple weeks in Pakistan, yes.
Okay. And whereabouts in Pakistan did you stay?
All over. But like the friendliness is all over. Islamabad was the only major city I did not visit. So I worked my way around the country. And Peshawar is like the final location before you get into Afghanistan.
And from what I hear, a good warm-up to Afghani culture, because there's a lot
Yes.
of Pashtun gentlemen that run in those areas.
And it wasn't long ago that was actually part of Afghanistan.
And didn't a lot of the Taliban, because from what I understand, so the Taliban means the students.
Right.
And the schools that a lot of these orphan kids are brought up in were called madrasas. And so when the Taliban needed numbers, they would recruit from these Pakistani madrasas, and all these children would kind of join the army and whatever mission they had to do.
Yes.
Is that your understanding of how things started to grow?
Yeah, I think I was wildly pleased by how much effort you put into research, because I'm completely different. And even us talking about Afghanistan and your trip, you put a lot of effort into it. Mm-hmm. I do it differently. What I do is I go in knowing nothing. I gain as much information as I can through the people I meet. And then I go home and I like wildly research everything I learned to sort of verify what my thoughts are. If we say that the children were brought into the Taliban, I saw children with Taliban, but never in an instance where like they're responsible for anything. Most Taliban offices have children in them that are going to be future Taliban. If you're Pashtun in Afghanistan, you are Taliban.
Can you break down the ethnic differences in Afghanistan and all? Are you
Yeah.
into that at all?
Yeah, well, I really don't know much. I know
There's
Hazara.
three main factions, right?
There's Pashtun. I don't know.
Tajiks.
Yes, and then Hazara are the more typical Asian.
And those are the northern
looking.
Afghanistan folks?
They're everywhere, really.
Okay.
But yeah, in the colder regions. But in Kabul, the capital, there's definitely a Hazara neighborhood where if you go, it's only Hazara. And once again, like the distinguishing physical features are completely different.
From what I understand, non-Pashtun speakers and people are treated on a little bit of a lower pedestal.
Yes.
Is it a little bit or a lot of it?
It depends who you're asking. Pashtuns will tell you they're all treated equally. But if you ask somebody from the Hazara, they're going to say, no, we're treated horribly, right? So not unlike North America. Different ethnicities and races will say that they're treated on a different, right? What part of that is true versus what part of that is built up just ideas. Everybody's going to have an opinion. From what I've seen, the Hazara neighborhood I went into, I was arrested immediately for filming. Immediately. Happened within a few minutes.
Did you get any of your permits? Did you get guides or
Yeah,
anything?
I had everything required. But there's still areas that are off limits. No matter what you have. No, you can't film there.
Did you have a guide with you at that moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was arrested too. That was his first arrest. So he wasn't a typical, he's Hazara.
Did he know that it was sketchy filming in that area? Or did
No, so he's not a guide.
So he was blindsided by it.
Yeah, he's never done this before. I met a gentleman that I liked, and he spoke well. So I'm like, just show me around your neighborhood. Not unlike what I do in most videos. They're not typical guides.
Yeah.
So he was not suspecting it. It was the first time he had ever been detained. So he was scared.
What was getting detained by the Taliban like?
Yeah. At first, a little bit worrisome because you don't know what's going to happen.
I like how you're using the word a little bit.
Yeah. Well, just because you don't know. Like, I never spoke to anybody else in the past that had been detained, so I don't know what to expect.
Could your guide speak Pashtun?
A little bit. But he's Hazara. But we got arrested in the Hazara. Not arrested. Like, there's no handcuffs. Detainment is like, you're coming with me. We're going to investigate why you're here with a camera.
Rectum searches?
No. Maybe next time, but not this time.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
They're
yeah.
actually pretty polite. You know, food is offered, pomegranate tea. Are you comfortable? Not in English, but through.
So they're trying to make it go smooth. They're just trying to check out who you are and see what you're doing.
Yes.
Because isn't the big concern they just want to make sure you're not a spy?
We don't know. I don't know. The problem of us even having this line of questioning with me is that there's a certain level of people that might watch this that are from Afghanistan or have left Afghanistan that says even what we're talking about is propaganda. We're building these evil people up to sound like very kind, God-loving people that in reality they've caused a lot of damage over the decades, destroyed a lot of families, removed a lot of freedoms. So it really depends on who you ask. But even this line of questioning, once again, some people will be upset. Because imagine you left Taliban territory, Afghanistan, 3 years ago because you had no job, nothing, no opportunities. You snuck out of the country into another country and got some kind of landed immigrancy. You're not going to be happy with me saying that, hey, they were very polite to me, right? Because I'm there as an outsider. I'm there and I was treated properly, but not everyone that lives there is treated in that manner.
That's one thing I think about, like as subscriber counts go up and people know that they're on camera, does it ever occur to you like I'm getting the red carpet version of
Yes.
what's going on?
100%. And that was the first time in my YouTube career, for a lack of a better term, where I really questioned, what am I doing? Is this right what I'm doing? Because, you know, we hear about Taliban. Even when I cross from Peshawar and I'm making the long drive, it's like 6-7 hours to Kabul. I got stopped by Taliban many times.
They have many checkpoints, I hear.
They'll find a way to stop you, right? And the common question was like, get out of the car, not because we want to search your car, because we want pictures with you. So I got pictures with Taliban thinking like, this is going to be a cool conversation to share with people. And I'm like this. I posted on Instagram and like hundreds of people started attacking me like, you're posting pictures with killers and you got a smile on your face. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't put much thought into it, but it's true. It's really not unlike what I was in Gary, Indiana yesterday. They were toting guns and smiling, and I'm there smiling, asking silly questions, not unlike what you do. You know, we got to decide at what point in our career as YouTubers, we have a platform, we have millions of people watching. What is our responsibility in showing both sides? Like, we can't say certain things on camera, or either us or the people that we're with are going to be detained and jailed.
That's, I think, an important thing to point out for especially the Afghanistan video is
Yes.
if you would have interviewed women, your guide could have been in danger. If there's any sort of negative opinion about the Taliban, your guide could have been in danger.
100%.
So you're in this weird quandary where you're trying to give a real picture of what things are like. You're trying to be friendly with anyone. You don't have a horse in the race. So if it's Taliban, citizen, whoever, you're trying to be friendly with them. But then there's people that every single day they're being oppressed by the Taliban. They're not allowed to listen to music still. I just saw a video on Twitter of a woman getting whipped by a belt like repeatedly for listening to music. I mean, some people are really suffering there. So I think it is, the thing is we can't be everything to everyone. I think the best we can do is go in there. We have to ask the right questions. I think that's where I kind of corrected myself in a couple of videos. I was being too easy on certain people. And it's not that I'm trying to have a gotcha moment, but if you're selling fentanyl, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about the people that you sell to that overdose? So you have to ask the yin and yang questions and not just a PR stunt for a bad person.
Right, but to further complicate the conversation, there's a large percentage of Afghanis today that are very happy that they made music illegal because their God is the only reason they celebrate. So, you know, it's about the argument that you're not going to please everyone. But us, we do have a platform, and there's other instances. When I was in Syria, for example, in order for you to get permission to enter the country, you need to be with a government official, not unlike North Korea. So they'll tell you where you can film.
Are you in with Kim Jong-un?
I don't want to be, but I want to visit the country.
But do you have any connects? Like you
No.
can hit him up and do
No.
a spa day with him or something?
Not yet.
That's another one. Okay, if we got the opportunity to film with Kim Jong-un,
Yes.
I bet we'd have a pretty fun time
100%.
because everything would be like on the table.
Yes.
But then you realize so many millions of people are starving. It is a tough thing to...
See, but it's the line in the sand, because if we're around during World War II as a journalist, who would not want to interview with Hitler to document what's going on? Doesn't mean that we agree with what he's done or that we like him as a person. I got to take the approach of journalists, because I've interviewed murderers before. No doubt they've murdered.
Yeah.
And I might even smile during the conversation to make it like we're having a real conversation. Do I like that person? Do I want them at my house with my family? No, I wouldn't trust them. But yeah, it's still a fine line between what we do.
But that's the important distinction is our job is to go there and ask them questions, but there's a weird tide of people online that just by simply associating and talking to a person and letting them speak that you're doing violence or evil or something bad. A lady that did an amazing job interviewing the Taliban, Isabel Young. Are you familiar with her at all? No. She's a Vice correspondent. She has such cojones, dude. Like, she was asking all the questions I would have been terrified to ask them to their face. Yeah. And she was so calm about it. And I just had a lot of respect for her.
And as a female.
Yes.
Just so you know, I was with a female tourist.
Emma.
So when we were getting stopped.
Wandering Emma, by the way. She's pretty much like, she's just opened up the floodgates for Afghanistan. She literally has a WhatsApp chat right now with dozens and dozens of people that are backpacking and traveling through Afghanistan right now.
She's the best. She's come to my house. So we met in Afghanistan. Maybe 6 months ago, she messaged me. It's like, I've never been to Toronto. I'm like, come, I got whiskey. Come to my house. So she stayed with my family for a couple of days. Yeah, she's a great woman. And she's an inspiration not only for travelers, for female travelers. Man, she goes to these places alone.
40s, 50-year-old, whatever, Scottish lady.
Yes.
Been to Afghanistan 7 or 8 times.
Yes. Has children. She's an American citizen. She's from New York. So she's been here
Scottish,
for
right?
Yeah, she's born in Scotland.
Okay, because I thought when I talked to her, her accent was a bit off.
Yeah, no, she's kept it, but she's been in New York for 20 something years. Had children here. Yeah, amazing channel as well. If you're looking for a female, I don't want to say danger traveler, but Iraq and Afghanistan type places, she's evidence that things are not as bad as what the world might make of them. I'll tell you what, I was driving a car. We were doing the long drive from Kabul to Kandahar, and the streets, even though it's been a long time since the war, nothing has been fixed. So there's huge, big holes in the middle of the streets, and we're weaving. So what should be like a simple 3-4 hour drive is like often a 10 to 12 hour drive. So there's checkpoints everywhere. Some Taliban, they want money. Some Taliban, they want a picture. A lot of them want your WhatsApp number.
How much money do they want when they're asking?
A few dollars, $5, $3.
Because this is a place that the average person is living on less than $2 a day, right?
And Taliban themselves don't get paid that often. So it's survival opposed to them trying to get wealthy from this. But I remember I got caught at one checkpoint. She's like, Chris, let me drive the car. Let me be the first female. So we videotaped. So I'm videotaping her driving to the next checkpoint.
Did she get in trouble for that?
Yeah, we all got in trouble. But she's a strong, small woman, and she's like, she liked it. She didn't think about like, we're not going to go to jail for this.
Now I see people. I've seen it in a negative connotation. People saying danger tourist, like they said that about Lord Miles, who I've talked to too, and I enjoyed talking to him. We were talking about earlier. Andrew Callahan put out his Kensington video, and in there he had a part about people that go, like your picture was in that video. Yeah. People that go to it and call it zombies are, like, what was it? Exploiting or sensationalizing. But I think, in a way, I mean, there's not many people that have their risk tolerance to go to some very scary places. And let's be honest, no one's doing a story about Bob the accountant who wakes up at 8 a.m. every morning, goes to his desk, comes back home, watches the Packers, go to sleep. There's nothing wrong with a normal, kind of boring life, but no one's going to go make a documentary about it. We want to find the stuff that's like, holy shit, what is going on in the world? So, like, what was your take on, like, when people use the word danger tourism, or if you go somewhere where people are poor, you're exploiting them. If you're going somewhere where people are black, you're exploiting. Like, what do you think about when people get mad about some of the stuff in our genre?
Yeah, after like 2.5 years of YouTube, at first it bothered me. Yeah, I'll be honest, it still bothers me to a certain extent, but it doesn't bother me in a manner that I'm going to change the direction of my life. It's like I got a rebuttal. I need to give them, I got the comment this morning on one of my videos, like, how come you only travel to poverty-stricken black areas? And look, racism.
First of all, they've never seen your portfolio of videos. If that's all they think you
That's
do.
my response, right? You've never looked. Look, I'm from Toronto, Canada. I have one video in Toronto, and it's a homeless. What do you want to call it? Like a tent city, all white people. So it's not like I'm filming a luxurious life of white people in Toronto and then going to the U.S. and going to do hoods. My interest is going in places that other people don't feel comfortable.
Exactly.
I don't think about the color. I've got videos in poverty-stricken Middle Eastern countries. I've gotten in refugee camps. I've gotten in Asia. So it's not a black versus white thing. But the one thing that I think makes us different, and we can talk about this openly, is I am always having my finger pointed at for this. Like the word exploiting, without looking at the definition of exploiting, is when you're profiting off something. I haven't made a profit since I started YouTube. My costs outweigh any money that I make, hotel, this and that. So when I hear that, I don't understand exploitation. Now, if you want to avoid the fact that people live in mud huts in Afghanistan, villages, you want to ignore that. I don't want to ignore that. I want to go and I want to see how they live. I want to touch the mud. I want to understand how the house is built.
Well, here's the thing with woke people is they already have their determination that you're bad. So
Yeah.
no matter which route you take, if you don't interview those people, well, you're ignoring them. You're not giving them a platform. You're not giving them a voice. If you do talk to them, then you're exploiting them.
Yes.
So no way you can totally operate. You can win with people that think that way. And the other thing is like people getting mad about making money on YouTube. I think it took 4 or 5 years to even start making money on YouTube. And it just come out of the blue that now it's starting to do well, but it was never like, oh, I'm doing this to make money. I'm doing this to explore. I'm doing this to see who I can meet, who I can talk to. I want to sit across from Sammy the Bull, the mafia hitman. Yeah. I want to sit across from a multimillionaire. Back to the poverty thing too. Like I want to do videos with billionaires. And at the end of every video, we put like 3 types of people we're looking for. Hell's Angels, billionaire, drug smuggler, whatever it is. It's very hard to find these type of people. So it's really about, we're trying to film the extremes.
Right.
It's easier to walk into a neighborhood where there's a lot of poverty than it is to find Jeff Bezos to hit up for a video.
I've never been, Jeff has never invited me to his house in his
really?
life. But if I go to the hood.
You didn't even get an invitation to his wedding?
No. No rich man or woman has ever come up to me on the street and said, let me cook you dinner. Mm-hmm. But in the hood, in the villages, the favelas around the world, the slums, all the time.
So what is it about places that have nothing that will give you their shirt off their back, will make you a meal, will let you sleep in the best part of their house? Because it's so interesting that if we went to Afghanistan, there's someone that's going to cook for us, someone that's going to take care of us. Yeah. If that same Afghanistan person came here and was walking around Milwaukee, no one would invite them into their house.
No, they'll probably do the opposite. It would be like, go home. We don't want you here.
Yeah.
Terrorists. It's a weird way of life, but I feel it and I see it. And that's why I appreciate these countries, Syria, Lebanon. There's a long list of countries that have a real negative stereotype, but when you go there and meet the people, see, the reason I really wanted you to go to Afghanistan was not just to create some crazy content that's going to blow up. I know with your platform and your positive experience that you have, you're coming home being like, wow, Afghanis are like incredible people.
Yeah.
And it might deter a small fraction of the world to understand like, hey, what the media pushes and no, not all people from Middle East are terrorists, right? Not all Palestinians are terrorists.
And perhaps the money that we've been investing into bombing all these places was not a good expenditure.
Right, 100%.
That was one thing I was actually worried about, is that, let's just say the Taliban actually looked pretty welcoming and kind on camera. Yes. I was worried about all the veterans or people back home once the video is posted. It's like, you're talking like, my son died in the Iraq war, Afghanistan war. How dare you talk to these people? That was actually the blowback I was worried about.
I think if the situation was turned, so the U.S. was on Afghani soil, right? If your children, forbid, were killed in a war, this is a war that the government created, right? It's not like they were here. Mm-hmm. It would be different, completely different. If you're defending your land and you died during a war, I can understand, but it's different. When I say we, I'm sure there are Canadians there as well. We were the ones that brought it to them. And I'll tell you, like, I've been to Iraq. I've been to Mosul, which is the most bombed out city in Iraq.
Mosul,
Mosul, and it still looks like that way today. And I can't tell you how many people from the U.S. Army have contacted me. Like, I was there. I can't sleep at night. I was responsible for that.
Wow.
So instead of them, coming like, why are you there? It's like, thank you. And a lot of soldiers messaged me from Afghanistan saying, thank you for showing the drive. Kabul to Kandahar is a pretty boring drive, but thank you. I remember going up and down that street being bombed, and this is really good for my recovery. So there are going to be negatives. There's nothing in the world we could film without somebody saying something stupid, idiotic. I do this in a selfish manner. I interview people I want to interview. Mm-hmm. I do what I want to do. I don't care. I'm tired of the black and white thing. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see the color doesn't matter to me. If you came to my house on a birthday, I'm the only white person at my house. My wife's Asian. All my friends are black. I don't even think about it. So when an outsider that doesn't know me watches 2 minutes of a clip and says, how come you're trying to profit off this black poor woman? Well, first of all, you didn't realize I slipped her $100, $200, $300, which is equivalent to a year's salary. Secondly, I'm trying to show them that this is the life they live. It's not easy, like especially in Africa. This is not an easy life. I'm not exploiting. I'm not making money from it. But yeah, going back to it.
How much are your DMs flooded? Hey, come to my city. I want to tell my story.
Never.
People don't DM you and ask that from you?
Very rarely. And
Really?
if they do, it's like 100% American, like North American. It's like, let me show you. It's more like a show-off type thing.
Are they mostly guys from the hood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Because I get dozens of DMs like that all the time. So like any like woke person that would want to try and call me out and be like, oh, how come you went to this guy's hood? He asked me to come there.
Yeah.
He DM'd me.
But how many billionaires have messaged you?
None.
I'm the same.
You gave me some news earlier today that was quite disturbing, and that I just found out was, and Miguel will be hearing this for the first time, is you visited Gary, Indiana. The gangster guys you were met, they brought you to that farm we were at.
Yes.
The lady at the farm would refuse to be on camera because she got dozens, hundreds of hate calls, messages.
Yeah. She said it in the nicest way possible. She just says she doesn't want any more problems.
Can you describe what you heard that people were doing?
Yeah,
to this
just
lady?
negative calls. I don't know what the saying is. Like
swatting? Is
that's what
where
it's
you
called?
get the SWAT team to
Yeah.
come because you say that there's a bomb threat here?
She just said that she had a lot of problems, and there were lots of calls. And she was very proud of the farm. She told me off camera. She stood beside me, and I filmed about the farm. There was no concern with that. She doesn't want the negativity of her face being associated with this farm. I didn't end up using the clip because I figured you already did it. So why do the same thing twice?
That hurts my heart, though. And I haven't heard of anything even close to that ever happening before. And we'll have to give this lady a call and see how she's doing.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to why.
There's just sick people on the internet. But the other thing that confused me is the comment section from that video was so positive towards that farm because they were the shining gem of that area.
Call her. I would be curious to know as well. She would answer you more directly as to who was calling or why, but she just said there's overwhelmingly like a large number of hate crime type phone calls. So I don't know what the reasoning would be.
It's so dark and disturbing. Like, I genuinely think that like most of what I see from the videos we make, very positive comments. People are happy. Like the piece that Brandon Buckingham just dropped on Milwaukee. People are loving Milwaukee, and that to me makes me so happy to see. But there is a weird like dark side of the internet where some people that are upset with their life somehow like jump on the train to just like badger you, talk like they're talking about one of the hairlines of the rapper of the video. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But I suppose that's just gonna be part of what happens in this business, and you can't focus on it too
you can't.
much.
It's the day and age that if you have a internet access and a keyboard, that everyone believes their opinion matters, when in fact it doesn't. It means nothing. The positive far outweighs the negative.
Well, the other thing is, it's amazing how one kind comment can really change your day. Me and my wife were on a walk with our dog the other day, and as we're walking, a woman says to my wife, she has this really funky jacket that we got from this guy, Westmont Rich, in a video we filmed, and she comes out of her car and she's like, man, that's a cool jacket. And we were smiling, and me and my wife, we high-fived, and like that one little sentence just put joy in our step.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the momentum of what can happen in the world. If we push towards that, where you go out of your way to say nice things to people rather than the opposite. I mean, just people, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've never left a negative comment on a video in my life. If I'm watching something and it's not pleasing me, I turn it off. But there are a certain percentage of people that maybe they don't have a voice in the real world, so they want to share a negative voice. I don't get it. I'm not that type of person, so I don't really understand why. But there's definitely a percentage of negative people. I don't know why.
There was an analogy of saying either lies or bad things about people I never forgot. I remember I was serving detention in elementary school with Mrs. Gott, the assistant principal, and she had me read a book that Madonna had written. And it was basically, what I remember of it is the analogy they used for this was spreading lies about someone is like when you take a pillow and you break the pillow over them and then the feathers go all over. And it's really hard if you just let the feathers blow in the wind to go pick up every individual feather. Because once the cat's out of the bag, it's out there.
Yeah.
And so, I guess another example is like cancer. That's like how it spreads is how a lie or mean things can spread. So
negativity is that way. Mm-hmm. No doubt.
As you were in South Sudan, I saw that you got into a dispute over cows of some sort.
It was in Kenya. So
Kenya.
Right before South Sudan, I was in Kenya.
Can you color people in about this?
Are we talking about the cows that were stolen?
Yeah, you rescued stolen cows.
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
You're basically like a sheriff or a cowboy or something.
Yeah. No, I was on a motorcycle in Kenya, like the far village, and I saw a bunch of men with like bow and arrow and spears and stuff like that. So, of course, I'm going to stop and ask what's happening. But long story short, there's like 30 village men that were together, and their cows were stolen. 2 cows were stolen throughout the night. So I'm like, can I follow you around?
How many cows did the village own?
I guess I don't even know. Like,
but those were prized possessions.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were worried about it.
Yeah. There's years of salary to maintain and to buy a cow.
Was that a milk cow? Was it going to be slaughtered one day?
It probably would have been slaughtered one day. But, like the value in village life in Africa, the value of a cow far outweighs any monetary value. Like cows are currency, right? Like if you want to marry a woman, you need cows. If you have no cows, you're not marrying a woman.
Really?
It's crazy. Like dowry is something that is actually...
Man, Tinder's a lot different in Kenya than it is over here, huh?
You got to have some cows. So the crazy thing is, like, you have a child on your way. Do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
Boy, baby boy.
So right now you would not be celebrating having a boy because what you want to have is a girl.
So that you can get a dowry?
So right. So you as a parent, one day your daughter or your daughters will be traded for cows. So you want to have... a bigger percentage of girls.
Well, when my son gets married, I'll have to talk to the father-in-law and say, look, buddy,
yeah,
if you don't get me some cows, the deal's off. I don't give a shit what you say.
So the crazy thing is, like, it's law in many parts of Africa. So, for example, if your daughter gets married to a man, there has to be an exchange of cows.
Is there a particular number that people usually use?
The elders from the village will come up with it. So, like, parts of South Sudan was 100 cows. 100 cows, a lot of cows to have. So
this is like the Miami of Kenya? Like these are the really ballin' people?
No, it's not. And that's the messed up part because, for example, part of my interview in South Sudan, there's outdoor prison. So I went up and they're there behind the gates and I'm asking, like, why are you guys here? And they're all here for stealing cows. And I asked, like, have you stolen cows before? And they're like, yeah, we get out, we steal cows, we come back. And I didn't really understand why the cycle of cow stealing, but then I heard a story from my translator. We're sitting down eating a big fish meal, and I asked him, "How's your wife and child?" He said, "I haven't seen my wife in 3 years, and my child I have never met before, but now is 2.5 years old." I said, "Tell me more." She's like, "I didn't pay the full dowry, and the government stepped in and separated us." So let's say he owed 50 cows, he paid 25 cows. And then one day the family said, "You didn't pay us all. We're taking our daughter back. You're never to see the daughter unless you come with the 25 cows. And to get 25 cows, legally, it's like impossible.
What are all the American feminists doing here? I feel like they need to go over there.
Oh, they would not be welcome there. I asked one of the elders in one of my videos about male on male relationship. I asked one question: are there any male on male relationship in the village? And my comments were flooded with, "Get out of my country! Why are you bringing this into Africa? This is not what Africa's about."
Isn't that hilarious? I think that's one thing that the woke people don't get is a lot of them are living in the places that are the most liberal and progressive on earth.
By far.
The people that they claim to be little allies for would not welcome them into the village.
100% not. They would be kicked out.
It's an interesting.
And I have nothing against anybody that has blue hair, by the way.
No, I mean, there's a yin and yang to everything, and we need balance, we need perspective. But I just think it is funny, of all places you choose to protest, or like the colonizer thing.
Yeah.
The places that you're most likely to be called a colonizer.
Yeah.
America, England,
100%.
Australia,
No.
are the places that got rid of slavery first on the entire planet Earth.
That's a whole other conversation, but yes.
I just want to add one more fact about that I thought was really interesting, which is England was the first country to get rid of slavery.
Yes.
And England spent a significant amount of their military budget on tracking slave ships and busting them. I think it was like 46 or 52% of their budget, and they actually went into financial trouble because of how much they were spending on busting slave ships.
Well, I'm going to give you another stat that you may or may not be aware with. Africa is my favorite continent in the world. I'm there all the time. I've seen half of Africa. What I can tell you today, there are more slaves in Africa today, black slaves in Africa. The stat is like 10 times more than were ever brought to any other country. So that today.
So a bunch of Southerners from Alabama migrated and owned slaves, or how is that going?
Right. So it's black owners with black slaves in Africa today. So if the Western world, North America, were to put half of the effort into abolishing slavery today, instead of simply talking about what had happened hundreds of years ago. See, what I find is there are a lot of victims. I get they're in the comment section. They're directly affected by slavery. From my quote in the comments is always like "your kind" or "you people," which I got to associate with white people. You people have
white. They say white.
Yeah, white people. If they put a little bit of effort into abolishing slavery today, because when you're going through Africa, there's billboards. Call in this number.
Is it legal?
No, it's illegal. But like, call in this number if you know slavery is happening.
Oh, so they can bust it.
Right. So in Africa,
so they have a tip line.
If you're watching this from Africa, there is no doubt there's slavery in Africa today. But when somebody from the USA or Canada watches this, they're like, "Oh, they think I'm racist for even bringing it up." It's horrible. But
it's the people that think that are hilarious, but then the grim reality is really depressing that there is that many slaves out there right now.
The world is a messed up place. It always has been. This is not something new, and it's unfortunately something that we cannot get rid of. We talked about it off camera earlier. Like the first conversation we had was because, I have friends or acquaintances, YouTubers from all over the world, every different race. I don't know if I've ever sat down with a white one-on-one. We shoot very similar content, so I was curious to see if you get the same feedback I get, because the negative, although it's a very small percentage of people, I think it's the ones that hurt the most. You can
get 1,000 nice comments, and the one that rips you a new asshole is
right.
like,
no, but it's like I'm sad for the world. I think I get it more than you because I go to Africa, I go to Haiti, I go to Jamaica, where they're predominantly black people. Don't get me wrong, my audience, I don't know what race they are, but I would say that they're predominantly black. I have a lot of love for black people, and it's reciprocated. But there is a
YouTube
negative.
Analytics doesn't tell you racial demographics, right?
Yeah, maybe once I hit 1 million like you, maybe I have an added look into that type of info.
Our comments on the channel, I would say, are overwhelmingly positive. And the other thing is, if anyone says something racist about me, I would say I would guess I'm probably the number one requested YouTuber to visit black areas in this country.
Yeah, of course.
The amount of brothers that I have DMing me is absurd. And so, like, to me, any woke person that would want to call me out, it'd be like, there's rap blogs, rap channels that will pay. You have to pay them to be on their platform.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going there. I'm bringing two other guys with me. Lodging, flights, rental cars. And we're going to make a piece that we want people to look as good as possible in the piece. We're going to edit out your ums. We're going to, if there's a part that you want us to blur, like we take care of you, and we're going to put it out and it's going to get 1 to 5 million views. There are people that could charge a lot of money for that.
Yeah, of course.
So anyone that talks shit, it does, like it is bothersome, but it's also like when you know in your heart who you are, where your morals are, and how you're received in the places you actually go, there is such a disconnect. There's an internet world and then there's a world. Where like when we go out and about, all of our in-person interactions are
perfect,
wonderful.
Yeah.
But somehow on the internet, it's a little different story.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why do you feel, or why do you think that the biggest players in this little industry that we're talking about are white males? Because the question I get, or the comment I get all the time is like, you would never be able to do that if you were black.
Here's why. I think if you look at all the different cultures in America, one thing that the black hood community is really struggling with, and that there's a low amount of, is trust. There's high amounts of trust for the most part in Latino communities, the Indian community, Jewish communities, all over. And that's how they build businesses. But there's, like, it's celebrated not to trust people. There's literally clothing lines in Milwaukee, trust nobody, or antisocial club. Like, I don't even trust my own mom. Like, there's a weird lack of trust in the community. And so as a neutral white guy that has no criminal background, or no gang, I should say, no gang affiliations, I feel like we can go anywhere we want because we have no horse in the race. But there is something where, I don't know, it would be a lot harder for a black guy to just go to any hood. I think a couple have done it well, but for some reason it's easier for us. What do you think?
I don't know. I find, yes, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's opposite. You know, like me going to Mogadishu, Somalia, being white is the opposite of...
Because you stand out.
I stand out.
Everyone has eyes on you.
Right. South Africa, you know, there's a very big divide between black, white, and colored. So me being there in a black community...
When you say black, white, and colored, you mean mixed?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 3 types of people in South Africa. If you have any white or Indian or Asian in you, you're colored. So there's different neighborhoods. You have a colored neighborhood, a black, and a white. So I don't know. I think what makes this easier, a few things. Okay, you have to have the charisma and the ability to mingle with people. And I think you can have that being any color. Mm-hmm. Number 2, you have to have somewhat of a resume. It makes it easier for us to walk in as, we'll call us journalists or YouTubers, because we are like, we're bringing something to the table. We've done this before. There's proven results. You're going to get seen on the internet. Now, those 2 things, if I walked in, and I can't speak because I'm not a black male, but if I walked in with those 2 things, I would find it hard to believe that I would not be welcomed, right? Now, maybe it's that, maybe, I don't know. I like, again, I've never...
Here's the other thing on the flip side. There was a viral comedian during a Kill Tony episode that K-A-T. I forget the guy's name, but he's like, I love rocks. He's a young black comedian. You know that clip? Anyways, he's just this funny black guy. Now he does clips where he like going rock climbing with white folks.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the funny is the reverse is everyone's so welcoming and fun of it. Like if
Yeah.
he goes to a horse with a bunch of farm with a bunch of horses, or he does redneck shit, everyone loves it.
Yeah.
And he'll never get the reverse. Oh, you're taking advantage of the whites. Like you're just going to rural West Virginia and taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
The double standard is, but the pendulum's swinging back. I feel like the last, like, COVID and the last couple of years we were peak woke, and I was in the corporate world until 2022, and I saw wokeness moving through the corporate world, where all of a sudden people that have never been confused about who they are in their entire life, like a hot blonde is putting he, she, her in the email signature. If you don't have the vaccine, you're kind of... I had a teammate in mine in Wisconsin. She didn't get the vaccine, and she was like ostracized from the group, and they'd known each other for 8 years.
I didn't get the vaccine.
I got it because I got pushed into it.
No, nothing can push me. Nothing.
Well, I admire your steadfastness,
Yeah.
but it is interesting to see. But I think now more and more people are getting brave and just being like for instance, we need to hire black and queer. Like, how about hire the black queer that does the job fucking great?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
We were talking about this with the Milwaukee Film Festival. The categories, I'm like, Miguel's getting ready to submit our fentanyl documentary. And hey, are the categories international, domestic? How are you going to, oh, it's the black lens, the queer theory, and the LGBT. Like, what?
Yeah.
So if I don't have some sort of like special designation as the creator of the video, then we're probably gonna have to use the Mexican heritage in this one, Miguel. So we're just gonna put his name as the guy that submitted it, so we get a little bit of brownie points, and perhaps I can convince Miguel to become non-binary for
No, send a picture. We just dye his hair blue or green and send a picture with a big smile.
And we have to put eyeliner on Miguel, so people are like, oh, that's brave.
Yeah.
Really brave.
Forward thinking.
Mm-hmm. What is, because I think in some ways, we're people that probably never run out of ideas, right? You're always working on the next place to go, the next thing to see. Is there anything that you're particularly excited about tackling?
It could be anything. It could be going down the street today. Like I don't plan. I'm the anti-you. Like I don't plan. I don't have a team.
In America, I'm a lot less planned.
Okay.
Because I was going to Afghanistan, I wanted to be able to tell my mom, my wife,
that you did your research,
that I did my shit.
Right. So I'm really waiting for the day North Korea opens. It's the only country left, still closed because of COVID. Right. So
take this as a compliment, because I think he's a decently handsome man. But I think you are like slightly look like Kim Jong-un.
Yeah. No, we'll get along.
So you have a square face.
Yeah, we'll get along very well.
I bet he has spectacles like that in his collection.
Probably.
What would you do with him if he's like, "Come on, Canadian man"? Like, what would you?
I don't know. Put me in that predicament, and we'll figure it out.
What if, man? I feel like you might see some like. Well, actually, you know what? What we can say about North Korea from the few documentaries that are out there is they are incredibly structured, and you see only what they want you to see. Yeah, I know. So there won't be a hair out of place when you visit. It's going to be manicured to perfection.
I'm okay with that, only because there's no other option.
You know who I think is a worthy or a lead-in is if you can build a relationship with Dennis Rodman. I've thought about that before. Yeah. He's the guy.
He is the guy. But as a Canadian, I'm welcome there anyway. I can go no problem.
What?
Yeah. So now they're closed because of COVID, but they're expected to open up in the next month or two. So the gates have remained closed 3 years now.
So you think you will go to North Korea in 2024?
100%. Yeah, I'll be there, and I'll be one of the first ones at the gate, like lined up. It's
like
on
it's
my
Disney
mind.
World.
Yeah, and the North Pole is very high on my list as well. Antarctica.
Have you heard any of the accounts of people that have escaped North Korea?
Yes.
Who was that lady on Joe Rogan? You know who I'm talking about?
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Listen to that one?
Yes.
The things she described were unspeakably bad.
Yeah.
That's another question I have for you. We've seen some American poverty, and there is suffering in America, undoubtedly. Tell me about how American poverty has contrasted with some of the Caribbean poverty and Middle Eastern poverty and African poverty. Like, give us a rundown.
Yeah, it's a common thread. Like, poverty exists everywhere. And if I talked about poverty in Africa, Africans will be upset at me. But I mean, in Afghanistan, poverty is a huge problem. Drug addiction is a huge problem.
Well, I guess the track I'm looking at is there's a line by a rapper named Immortal Technique, and it's going to go something like this. Like, I go to the places where the hoods aren't half as nice. It makes the hood in America look like paradise. Like, from what you've seen internationally, does the hood seem like kingdom come?
It's tough. Once again, to the people born and raised in it, they don't know anything different. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I've been to places like, let's use an example. There's a place called, City of Sun. It's a little community in Haiti, Port-au-Prince. When I went there, I was in the middle of a gang war. It's my best series I ever shot. It's one of my first.
That was the one where one of the guys that you filmed with later got shot and killed.
Yeah, was murdered. So one day I'm going to the City of Sun. To get there, you have to go through all these checkpoints that are gangs. And if they want to kill you, they'll kill you right on the spot. There's no questioning. So my secret was to bring water. So if I get stopped, I'm like, hey, I'm bringing you water. And it actually worked. So once I get...
How many water bottles are you carrying?
No, like cases of water in the car. So then you get to a certain point where your truck can't go any further. So you get on a bike. And I'm going through like sludge water. And the reason is I'm looking for what I've seen in the past about mud cookies. So there's a certain part of Haiti where, again, City of Sun, where it's directly in the middle of like 4 different gang factions that are they're enemies. They're killing each other.
What are some of the names of gangs out there? Like, it's not like Bloods and Crips, is it?
No, GPEP. And the number one guy on the other side, G9, is Barbecue. So he's world famous. He has Instagram and everything. He's ex-police chief, now gangster. His name Barbecue.
Damn, an ex-police chief gone rogue would be a perfect gang leader because they know.
Do you want to guess why his name is Barbecue?
Because he cooks people?
Yeah, he doesn't want to waste a bullet. So, like,
Alive?
Openly, set you on fire.
He alive?
That's another story that I can tell you. Yeah, that's what he does. But
so he's a maniac.
Yeah, and he'll smile and do interviews on camera and be a likable person.
Have you spoken to him?
I can speak to him. When I was there, we set up the interview, but he said to wait a week or two because the gang war, and I didn't have a wait.
That's the crazy thing about doing these videos.
Yeah.
Is you can meet somebody that is literally barbecuing people.
Yes.
And in person, they're like seem okay.
I know.
How is that?
It's often like I watch serial killer documentaries in Milwaukee, as we talked about earlier. It's very famous for serial killers. And the interviewer will always say, like, this was a likable person. That's what allowed them to be so evil. Just so I don't lose my train of thought, when I was in that middle of the slums in Haiti, I had never seen anything that sad in my life. Hospital, there was no electricity, no bandages, no nurses, no doctors. They're afraid to go. So the simple thing like getting sick, you can't get sick. You can't get fresh water because the gangs are there. So even you leaving a checkpoint, you could have a good day and get through, or they could kill you on the spot because the wrong gang is there.
Like they switched the guards and the guys that took the next shift.
My gang shoots your gang out and takes this over. But then 2 days later, your gang comes back in this gang. So in the middle of this place, there's hungry people that have no fresh water. If it doesn't rain, there's no fresh water. So what they've turned to is making mud cookies. So they have butter. They have something called Maggi, like a seasoning, and salt. So they go get a big puddle, like muddy water, the same thing the motorcycles are driving in. They fill it up. They get dirt from the ground, put a little salt, Maggi, and butter, a very little, mix it all up, let it sit for a day or two. So I filmed this process and made a video of it. Then they use the sun to bake it. So they just put it outside, sun, and they're cookies that harden. And that's what they're eating because there's no vegetables, there's no fresh water.
It's just to fill the belly up.
To fill the belly. So to go back to what you're talking about, like who knew that stuff like that existed where if you cross the street, you're dead. So you eat the mud cookie or you die of not having anything to eat. There's no option. There's no store. There's no, like in any hood I've been in the U.S., you can go to the store. I don't think there's anybody, a very small percentage of people that die in the U.S. from lack of food because somebody's going to help you.
We die from too much food here.
Right. Somebody's going to help you somewhere. But around the world, food is the biggest problem. Lack thereof, water, fresh water, and food.
I remember we were talking to illegal immigrants that just crossed and they couldn't believe, wait, you guys get food stamps here? You guys get Section 8?
Yeah.
It's like, sign me up. I'll live here the rest of my life.
Yeah. So this is, going back to it, and this is stuff I see. I've been in places.
They're eating these mud cookies.
Yeah. I was violently ill.
Is this breakfast? Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I took a bite. I'm like, if they're doing it, I'll do it.
And you felt like you got dysentery or some shit?
Within 3 hours, I was like seeing stuff, hallucinating, and I'm sure it was the dirty water.
Did you think you were going to die?
I didn't go to the hospital. I locked myself in the room, closed all the blinds, and just
suffered it out.
Suffered it for 3 days. It was 3 days of the most painful water? That I had after the fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had some.
Oh, the way they make the cookies are in the dirty water, right?
But did you have any clean water that you could
at the
keep
hotel?
yourself
Yeah,
hydrated?
yeah. And I bring one of the things I bring, the essentials, is the
water, the life straw.
Not the life straw. The thing you put in the water when you're. Even if you party too much and drink too much, it's like the
electrolytes?
Electrolytes, yeah. So I always bring that with me so it came in good health.
You'd be a hard channel to sponsor, but maybe we can figure out an electrolyte sponsor for you.
Yeah, it's funny.
Hey, folks, send him the 6-figure check. Let's get this guy cranking.
Let's do it.
I want to hear your story about how you got sentenced to life in a Cuban prison.
Yeah, one of my claim to fame. Now that I'm out, it's something I'm actually proud of because who else has a story like that, right? So it was about 8 years ago. I can pull up the date. I I got a new drone, DJI, the big Phantom 1 drone. So excited, like a typical male, like just want to show off what I got. I got
Play
this
with the toy.
new toy that nobody else has. So I'm traveling and I'm in Colombia, flying it around. I remember going to Florida and I was actually in the Everglades, like looking for the crocodiles and alligators and coming down to see if they could jump and grab this thing. And I go to Cuba, and at the customs, as I'm going through immigration, I open it up. They're like, "What is that?" I'm thinking, "Yeah, I got through."
This was the end of the Obama era?
Yeah, it's during Obama.
That's when we opened up doors to Cuba, right?
Well, we've always been open because Canada,
Canadian, yeah,
we're always open. And Americans are always been welcome in Cuba as well, but you can't fly from the U.S. to Cuba. But forever, you could have gone to Panama and then fly to Cuba. You're always open. There was just no direct flights. But they didn't stop me at the border, so I figured, hey, technology is too new, no problem. And I'm a good talker, so if I get caught, I'll just lose the drone. So the first day I'm out in Havana flying it right by the water, getting some cool shots for an amateur drone guy. Police come up to me and my heart start racing while the drone is in flight, but he just took out his little flip phone. He's taking pictures. And I'm like, so I'm taking pictures with the police, thinking, this is cool. Second day, I'm getting a little bit more, I don't know what.
Wind in your sails, comfortable?
More comfortable. So I'm flying over the city. And that's when I got in trouble, right? Military started coming around me while I was flying, and I'm smiling, thinking the guy wants to know, some silly question. Drone comes down right away. They got me in handcuffs. And I'm thinking, okay, and still my mind is working a million miles per minute, like what's going to happen next? And, my Spanish was not that good. I knew enough to know I was in real trouble. So they're like, bring me to the hotel. So I have a house rented. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're going to let me go. But when they got to the house, they're grabbing all my shit, putting it in my suitcase, and still not telling me where we're going. Even when I got to the jail, I didn't know. It's not like a prison that's...
They're speaking Spanish, which you don't speak that well.
I don't speak that. Like, I can order food or...
But you had no idea what was brewing.
Not during those are words that I wouldn't normally use in a conversation, right? So they were upset that I couldn't understand them. They thought I was hiding something. All I remember is like when I got into the jail, after like 12 hours of questioning and being yelled at, I got into the jail. I'm thinking, oh shit, what am I got myself into? So I'm walking down this little hallway with no lights, very little lights. It's like a movie, like a little flicker of light. I remember I turned to the right and they opened the cell, and there's this big black guy in there in my cell. And I'm like, okay, this is just
they put me with Bubba.
This is just like the movies, right? But he reached down and he put his shirt on. He was actually one of the guards. So he was just resting.
Taking a little siesta.
So I'm like, okay, problem one is solved, right? So I'm in the cell, and now I'm thinking...
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Did a thought go through your mind, like my butt cheeks might be ruptured if this guy lives with me?
No, I'm a wrestler. I was thinking that we're going to get a good wrestling match on, and then they're going to separate us, but no. Yeah, scary, man. That first night, I remember just sitting there looking at the roof. I couldn't sleep. I'm like...
And they gave you no clear expectations?
Nothing. No why you're here, how long you're going to be here, no calling your family, no lawyers, nothing like that. This is communism, right? So day one is like I'm dreaming about my kids, which at the time were much younger than they are now. I'm dreaming like I'm missing their marriage and stuff like this, and like really, really upset with myself for being so stupid. You know what I mean? I'm like, how was I so stupid? My one stupid mistake could cause... can you imagine? My family depends on me financially. Like my whole family could fall apart because of my stupid action. And I got it after getting out. I was on every news station, and the comments were, stupid, idiot.
In Canada, that you went on a circuit?
In the U.S. Yeah, everywhere. But like, how dare you think you can go to another country and break the law? This guy should go to jail for life, and all this stupidity. But I was in jail for like 13 on the 13th day. They finally, I every day I ask the guards, like, just let me get some sun, because there's an outdoor area that's encaged, but because I was in the investigation stage, they wouldn't let me.
So you were on 24-hour lockdown.
Yeah. So normally, like the first 2 years, even after sentencing, is like you're there. You're not going outside.
Were there any people nearby to speak to?
Yeah, everybody. But I'm in like we'll call it a tourist jail, where everybody has committed crimes. They're from other countries. So there's like a Russian guy. There's some African people.
In the cell with you, or nearby that you can
nearby.
Talk through the bars?
We're all in separate
cells.
So the Russian guy, it's like, you'll be here for a long time. He spoke English. What he did is he had a Cuban girlfriend, so he went there to Cuba, got in a fight, and broke the TV in her house, and she called the police, and
That's a
and he had been in jail for 2-3 years so far, and he's expected to do 20 years for breaking the TV.
how disheartening was that to learn that guy's story?
Heartbreaking, because he would tell me, Chris, you're here. Just get comfortable. Take off your mind that you're going to get out, because you're not going to get out. Another guy from Africa, because Cuba has a very, very high level of education, university education. So a lot of people go to become doctors, because university is very inexpensive in comparison with anywhere else. So part of the deal is when you come from another country to university, you sign that your grades will not go below a certain point. So this one guy's grade, his Spanish grade, went below 80%. So he's in jail.
What?
And another thing I didn't talk about is part of being in jail is sometimes you're allowed to go, but if you cannot financially pay for your stay, you don't go. So like every day you're there, there's a fee associated with your name. So say
You have to pay to be in jail.
you have to pay to get out. If you do your sentence and you are there, imagine it's $5 a day, and you were there for 3 years or 5 years, and you're from a country where poverty is a real problem. You don't have the money to pay.
So you're telling me after you serve your sentence, let's say you have a tab,
Yeah.
$1,500.
Yeah.
If you don't pay that,
You're there
you
until
stay.
yeah.
Is there any way to work off that money?
No. You can't work in a foreign country, right? Especially Cuba. So there's a lot of people in the cycle of
Is it almost like a ransom thing where they want you to
no,
push your family
they don't want to
members into
lose money.
sending you money?
No, because there's not even a way to contact. There's no phones. There's
But
nothing.
when it's your time to get released, they're like, hey, you're ready to go out. But
We'll go to the bank. Like they brought me to the bank in shackles.
how much did you have to pay?
Not a lot. I think I paid like $10 a day. Maybe I paid like $150 US.
You got the gringo price there.
Well, I was only there 13 days, so had I stayed longer, I'm sure my fee would have been more. But so I had the expectation I'm going to be there a long time. And I compared my crime, which they had charged me with, flying a drone over Fidel Castro and knowing where Fidel Castro was.
Which was a total accident, right? You had no idea.
No clue at all. I have no history of, and I get this quite often, even in my Afghanistan videos, when I'm holding the guns in the market, I'm like, oh, I've never held a gun. All those conspiracy theories are like, no, I know this man is from the military. He's from A, B, C, D, and he's pretending not to hold a gun, but I can tell he knows. And I'm like, oh my God, like what? I've never held a gun before, right? It's a conspiracy theory. I don't know Obama. I had nothing to do with spying.
The reason they thought you were a spy was because you
Yeah.
had a picture in front of the White House.
Yes. Well,
So
that's part of it. That is like further evidence that I was there for a reason.
So what cleared you?
The Canadian government. On the third or fourth day, somebody from the embassy in Canada, not in Canada, the Canadian embassy in Havana came to visit me.
How do they know? How do they
So
find
when
out?
my wife never heard from me in a couple days,
Called the embassy.
she called the embassy.
How do they know which jail to go to?
So it's not that big. So what they do is there's actually like a group of people in Ottawa, Canada, that are responsible for finding loved ones that are either died or in jail or hospital around the world. So they send out whatever they normally do. So when I heard English for the first time, and they're like, I could hear, the jail's very small, I was so excited to hear from them. But then I
can imagine.
I sat in this little place with like dirty leather couches with rips on them. She looks at me, she's like, I don't want you to be too happy. There's nothing I could do to get you out, but I want to let you know your family knows you're here. And I'm like, a sign of relief, right? And then
Because certainty at least is better than not knowing where you are. Are you dead or alive?
right.
Yeah.
She's like, what can I do to help you? I'm like, can I get a book, a magazine, anything? I have nothing. I'm in complete nothing. So she asked them, and they're like, absolutely not. And I'm like, this is going to be some real hard time.
What book? If you could have requested a book, what do you think you would have asked for?
Anything, man. Anything. I would have read it in circles because there's nothing to do.
Are you a reader?
No, but at that time I would have been. But I made friends with one of the guards. In a couple of days in, he slipped me a magazine on watches. So
Not a nudie mag?
No. Well, those are illegal in Cuba as well.
I don't know if I'm ever going to visit this place.
Yeah. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. On the 13th day, I had to go pay. The same person that arrested me apologized. They had looked through the footage. There's no.
They can tell just a guy.
Just flying a drone.
Yeah.
They let me keep the footage. Gave me the drone back, signed a document, and for the first time, they had somebody speak proper English when I'm leaving. They said, you're welcome to come back to Cuba. You're our friend. They said, please understand that along the lines of Cuba's safety is more important than one man's time. So if you would have spent the rest of your life in here, they don't feel bad because the safety of Cuba is more important.
Did you get some sort of pass that if you did go back to Cuba, you'd
No.
be treated really well?
No.
Would you ever go back to Cuba?
I've been back to Cuba since. I went back once.
Did you bring
to
the
test
drone?
the theory? No. And they told me if you want to bring it in the future, just ask for permission beforehand. I said no. I'm good. And the funny part of the story is when I finally got innocent, they made me go buy the airplane ticket, which is not like going online. I had to go to the bank. Banks don't always work, so the police are bringing me around in shackles. So
You looked like Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, like this.
But you're really just Chris List.
right, and at that time I wasn't even that. And the funny part is like on the airplane. So the two police, when I was Hannibal Lecter in chains, were sitting on one on either side of me at the airport. They got me through customs.
Pointing the gun at your head.
No, they were sitting with me, and you know when they say like pre-boarding for all these people, okay? They waited until everybody got on the airplane. Then they walked me up in shackles into the airplane. So every head is turning, looking at me as I walk down the center aisle. They sit me down. They don't say a word. They unshackle me. It's funny because I've never gone 2 weeks of my life without shaving, and I had some ridiculous little like beard thing growing. And I looked at the people sitting beside me. They up and left. And
Yeah,
like
they were
with
terrified.
disgust. Like they didn't ask what this guy is doing. And I was the happiest man. I remember sitting at the window, and it's only like a 2-hour flight to Toronto. All I would think about was like my daughter at the time, like very small infant. I'm like, they're going to be waiting for me at the airport. And that moment, so I had a GoPro on me. So I actually filmed that moment. This is way before YouTube. So I had it on me where my little daughter, she wasn't even speaking, came running up, dad. And man, I broke down emotionally. I'm like, that was 2 weeks of hell, like no sleep and worrying. And yeah, that's the craziest thing that I've ever experienced.
That's
on
beautiful, though. A beautiful
on this
ending.
travel.
I have one last destination to take you into Milwaukee.
Yes.
We're about to go check into a kids wrestling club. I'm going to show you some of the things that are going on in the city, and a guy that's really doing things the right way and sacrificing a lot to work with kids and grow the sport. But my last question is, what is Chris Must List? It almost sounds like Christmas list. What is the origin or meaning behind your name on YouTube?
It's almost like what we talked about earlier. Like there's an abundance of topics that we could film. We're never going to go dry of interesting people or places to explore. My must list is I'm the type of guy that likes to write things down. I come up with ideas in the middle of the night when I'm drinking, when I'm not, when I'm having a conversation like this. So I have a list at home that's a big, thick novel of scribble.
It's something you must do.
I must do. It's my bucket list.
Yeah.
The must things. It's endless. The must do list. Put it that way. My name is Chris. Not everyone gets that. Some people call me Christ or Chris. And it's just my must list. Things I want to do before I leave planet Earth.
I think that's a remarkable way to live your life with meaning and purpose and a mission. And I'm glad we got to talk and explore. And we have one more place left to go. So people find him. I'm going to link his YouTube, his Instagram, your OnlyFans.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
And check this guy out. If there's one piece or two pieces that come to mind, a thing that people, they're going to click off and watch one of your videos, what's something that you recommend for a first-time viewer?
Yeah. I think my Haiti series, interviewing the gangsters in the midst of a gang war, and where the man didn't want to wear a mask. He wanted to be open.
Folks, this is some of the raw shit on the internet. I think you'll enjoy it greatly. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Peace.